Today's episode of Wine and Dime is sponsored by Rooted Planning Group, a fee-only financial planning firm that believes life is about events, supported by your dollars and cents. And we want to help you achieve your goals. Hop on over to www.rootedpg.com to learn more about the services. Every week, it's my goal to share financial information that helps you in both your life and Financial Vineyard. We hope it takes you from your roots to the journey of your vines and the influences in the air that have helped craft your delicious life. Like wine, life and finances have different palates that should be celebrated and not judged. Hi, Wine and Dime listeners. Amy Irvine, CEO and founder of Rooted Planning Group, here for another episode of Wine and Dime. As the fall has started to approach in upstate New York, getting closer and closer to winter, as always, I enjoy exploring all the wineries in our area before we head down south for our winter voyage. And I've found a new winery this year that found a couple of good wines out of there. One of the wines that we recently tested was a Pinot Noir and also a rosé from Billsboro. Billsboro's up near Geneva. I've spoke about them a couple times this year, but we recently went up there with a group of friends and really enjoyed the newer releases that were coming out. So if you're looking for a great adventure, hop on their website. You can order and they'll ship the wine to you if you're looking for something a little bit different. They blended their rosé with a couple of different wines, which is what made it unique. And again, if you're wanting to explore, hop on over to their website and you can find out more detail. All right. I also will put in the show notes a link to the Finger Lakes Vineyards, Part 2, the best wine trails around Seneca Lake. I wanted to shift gears just a little bit and talk about a topic that many people have been bringing up to me recently, which is the home buying situation that we're currently in. Well, if you know anything about what's been in the news, you know that interest rates are very high right now. And so buying a home might feel like it's something that's impossible to do. However, buying a home is something more than just interest rates driven. The thing that I always tell people, even when interest rates are low, whether you should buy a home or continue to rent, is it's not just a financial decision. It's also an emotional decision. So there's two things that we always have people look at. There's a lot more than two things, but I should say that there's a couple of top things that we always have people look at. When I'm working with somebody trying to determine whether or not to buy a home, the first thing we do is write down everything that you spend on rent or rent related. So we're taking rent, we're taking homeowners insurance, usually a renter's policy. If there's any additional costs associated with renting whatsoever, we list that in column A. In column B, we then go through and say, okay, well, if I bought a house that I want, what would the mortgage payment be? So what am I paying in principal? And the reason I break this out is because, well, let me explain what I write down and then I'll tell you why I break it out. So principal and interest are one item, and I break those out because that does change over time. Insurance is another thing. Now you're getting into full homeowners insurance, maybe a liability policy potentially, or something higher on the liability side. Taxes are another thing that we have to take into consideration. Then we have to also look at things like maintenance and budgeting for maintenance. But in the column of non-financial, we want to look at things like, are we going to relocate? Is there going to be a short-term arrangement here, or are you looking at something less than 5 years? If you're looking at something less than 5 years, typically you want to stay in the rental capacity. If you're looking for something longer than 5 years, then it may make sense. When you look at the average size of the home, that's also another component that you want to take into consideration. And in a lot of places, renting a home may be a middle ground. So things like that are the items that you need to think about on the financial perspective. On the emotional perspective, some people look at buying a home as a settling down situation, a way. I know for people that are in the military that move from year to year to year, buying a home and owning the home just gives them a place of safety where they don't have to pick up and move every few years. It's there. It's solid for them. So that's kind of the high high level side of buying versus renting. And when I talk to people about this, there's not a right or wrong answer. It depends for every person. We have a great flow chart that I'll put in the show notes on what issues that you should consider when buying a home. Things like, do you need help determining how much it will cost to own and maintain your new home? Think of things like I already said, maybe the mortgage payment, the cost of utilities, maybe commuting if you're moving outside of a urban area. Will you be making changes and improvements to the property? Or, is that something that if you're renting, is that something that's already taken care of for you? Will this purchase impact your ability to save for other goals? Now, again, this is one of those things where it could be that you have to work longer in order to actually purchase this home, but emotionally, that is something that you want to do. Another question that you should ask yourself is, do you have a spouse or partner, and do you currently plan to live on one income at any point in time? And if that's the case, make sure that you're buying a home that fits within that budget. And another key cash flow item is, will you be living in the home for 5 years or longer? Because that does make a difference usually for break-even purposes. Another couple of items that you might want to consider is mortgage-related issues. Do you need assistance considering the financial impact of different types of mortgages? Like, what's the benefit of HSA loan, or what's the trade-off of mortgage terms, fixed versus variable rates? And right now, for mortgage interest rates, they typically are, this is an all-time high, I think, in the last 20 years, I believe, maybe even a little bit longer than that. Not an all-time high, but over the last 20 years. So many people that are buying homes right now may have never seen interest rates at the same level that they're looking at right now. However, if that's something that, again, is emotionally, pulling you towards purchasing a home, if interest rates do go down, there is the ability to refinance. This doesn't have to be a forever. Or perhaps you look at maybe an adjustable rate mortgage, where as the interest rate goes down, your mortgage rate will go down. And then once rates go down, you could always refinance into a fixed rate. I know this is a very powerful question right now. And I know that the inventory has slowed up a bit because people that are thinking about relocating don't necessarily want to take on a larger mortgage payment right now simply because of interest. And depending on the area that you're buying in, this could mean an additional, with where rates are right now, this could mean an additional $900 per month. If you were taking on a mortgage versus what it was 2 years ago. So I know this is a short podcast, but I know that it's something that I've been having a lot of people have asked me recently if this is a bad time to buy a home. I don't think it's necessarily a bad time to buy a home, but I do think it's important that you sit down and look at the cash flow for your own situation. It's possible that inventories may go up. I know that I haven't seen as much of the over asking price situation that we saw earlier this year. So people that are listing their home aren't getting more than asking price. In fact, I'm seeing more and more listings be reduced. So maybe the prices are coming down just a little bit, or at least stabilizing. So the part that I think I really want to hone in on is the fact that it's important to sit there and do a checklist of the reasons why you want to buy a home and whether or not it makes financial sense for you. Again, interest rates may come down at some time in the future and you could always refinance. But if they stabilize in a higher than normal area like they did in the 70s, that could mean that you're waiting 10 years to buy a home. And I'm not sure that that's something that you want to do. Well, I want to thank you all for listening to the show today. I hope this information was helpful. Refer to the show notes on the flowchart that I mentioned on what issues should I consider when buying a home. Again, we hope that you share this with your friends and that you rate us on iTunes so more people like you can find us. And a special shout out to TJ Meehan at Meehan Media. We sure appreciate all the faux pas fixes and the blending that he does during the production stages.
And that will about do it for today's episode of Wine and Dime. You can contact Amy through the website www.rootedpg.com or amy@rootedpg.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram @rootedpg for the latest news. And if you have any questions, comments, or topics you would like to hear about, feel free to let us know. And don't forget to rate and subscribe the show wherever you get your podcasts. And again, thank you for listening, and be sure to tune in next time.